Hello everyone, guys, gals, and non-binary pals of the 8-Bit Collective. My name is Sam Harkin, and welcome to part 3, the final part in which we are talking about anime of 2020 winter. I'm doing this in all the wrong order in terms of that sentence, but it's very exciting because in this part, the final part, I'm going to be talking about the stuff that I've been the most excited about for this anime season. So we're just going to jump into it. So the fourth thing I'm most excited about for this anime season is a little anime called Toilet Bound Hanako-kun. So, I mean, admittedly, that's like a weird concept of just like someone that's bound to a toilet, but it kind of makes sense because like when you think about Japanese culture, a lot of Japanese culture is, you know, talking about like yokai, you know, ghosts and demons and spirits and all the other stuff that was in it, that Inspector anime, and also ghost stories. If you've never seen like the ghost stories anime, watch the English dub. I don't care if you like subs, you have to watch the dub because they just let the actors do whatever and it's just a fucking ridiculous farce of comedy. Anyway, so yeah, like there are some spirits that are like bound to restrooms or whatever. And that's essentially the idea behind this anime. There's this girl who goes to a school in which one of, you know, the many legends around the school is that there is this girl spirit called Hanako-kun, who lives in a bathroom and, you know, in a very Bloody Mary kind of style, if you knock 3 times on the door and you ask to see her, then she will grant you a wish, even though, in order for that to work, you have to give up something precious. And this girl, and I just realized I probably should look up the name of this character, Nene Yashiru. Yeah, she's referred to as Yashiro. Yeah. Yashiro, who, you know, is trying to like get a boyfriend or like just have someone to like her back, kind of goes to Hanako-kun and, you know, asks for that wish. And I will say one thing that I love that I thought was really cute from the start is you know, Hanako's like, you don't want me to like wish for like impossible things because you have to give stuff up. So, you know, instead I should also mention, the legend is that it's a girl, it's actually like a boy. So he gives her like, loser's guide to dating or whatever. I think the obvious thing that attracted me to this show is just the fact that it's got such a cool style. Like, at the risk of, you know, pissing people off, you know, this anime has a rather cartoony style. You know, like it has like really thick lines and really bold colors and stuff, and just every like scene in this just looks so pretty. And you know, I think even if like the story was crap, well, I mean, maybe that would be like a little bit of a crazy thing to say even if the story was crap, I'd watch it. But like, the story didn't have to blow me away. And, you know, having said that, the story, I mean, it did sort of blow me away. Like, I'm not going to be like, my whole life is different, but like, it's a very nice show. Like, once again, now I get to riff on Uchitama again because, like Somali and the Forest Spirit, this is really cute. It's really wholesome. That's not to say that they can't have some wild stuff in here. Like, in, you know, there was like a fight and, you know, Hanako was just like brandishing a giant knife and you're just like, whoa. But it was cool. It was really cool. It was really wholesome. I'm kind of curious as to how this kind of secondary character that the protagonist is crushing on is going to be involved in the story, because like presumably he is involved in the story because, you know, he's in like, you know, like posters of this thing. So I'm kind of curious as to how he slots into the narrative. It's very kind of chill and I don't know, like there's so many words that I can just like spurt about this, but the simple fact of the matter is, it looks beautiful. Beautifulness that you see like in the screenshot is not just kind of, you know, like here's the promo art and then, you know, it actually looks crap. Like, it also kind of reminds me of like Teen Titans, where it will have kind of one style, but, you know, when they're showing like a character being angry or something, they'll go into like a more cartoony style to kind of, you know, show off this exaggerated version of how angry they are and stuff like that. They do that kind of stuff as well, which, you know, just kind of goes from it's visually interesting and also it's changing stuff up on the reg. I just want to see more of this. But anyway, number 3 is, I mean, there are a couple of ways to say this, all of which are fucking long. You could call it RikeKoi ni Ochita no Shome Shite Mita. The English translation of that is Science Fell in Love, so I tried to prove it. But the one that I think I put on the actual like graphic that I'm putting with this, which is the shortest version of this, is RikeKoi. The thing that I find so fucking funny about RikeKoi is like less than 2 weeks ago, I just randomly stumbled onto this really awesome song on YouTube called, I believe it's a statistically significant love story. Yep, a statistically significant love song by Heinrich Weidegren. I don't know, I'm probably mispronouncing this. Heinrich Windegren and Johanna Korner Berglund. I think that's how you pronounce them. I think they're like German. And it kind of feels like it could almost be the theme song of like what I thought this show would be. You know, it's two people who are obsessed with science, like using the medium of science to kind of prove their love to each other or whatever. And that's kind of what I thought. Like I thought, you know, it'd be like really cute and really fun and stuff. And it generally is that. I will say I'm a touch disappointed. I'm not overwhelmingly disappointed. This 100% is still going on the now way too big list of anime that I have to watch this season. I just realized I completely forgot to say what the synopsis is, but like it's kind of right there in the title of Science Fell in Love, so I tried to prove it. It's essentially, there are two scientists that are working in a laboratory. I don't know what they're studying or if that's ever going to come up in the story. But one of them is just like, here's the thing, I think I'm in love with you, other scientist. So the way that they go about proceeding is, instead of, hold hands, frolic into the sunset, they decide that they have to prove it. Mainly because like they're so socially inept that they're just like, while most confessions of love would be, like this awkward thing and, like they argue or whatever. What immediately happens next is the girl, presents like a PowerPoint presentation, like, here's a pie chart of all the reasons that I think that I love you. And here's a line graph that shows, how much I've been thinking about you in, the past couple of months. And it's just, it's really funny, and it's got shit like, one of the girls is like reading like a romance manga and does kind of like the wall slam thing where, like the girl is kind of, leaning against the wall and the guy is just like got a hand on the wall, just like, hey baby kind of thing. Because that's kind of like a romance anime trope. And so they, are wearing heart rate monitors to, monitor how much their heart rate changes because of that. But then they're like, but what if her heart rate's going up for a completely different reason? And so then they end up having, like a test where, she's leaned up against the wall and the guy's going like, wall slam, wall slam, wall slam, wall slam, like 100 times over. And then they get to the end of it just like, wait, your heart rate didn't go up after the 100th slam. And it's just like, well, yeah, because you've just been doing this for like quarter of an hour. So, it's one of those things where it's very cute because, they're, in love, but they're also kind of awkwardly bumbling around, the topic of love by trying to do science at it. They're cuddling and they look like they're about to kiss and then they go, time! And then they look at their watches and be like, oh, yes, my heart rate. So in a way, it's kind of just like lampooning romance anime by just, having someone, holding a stopwatch and calling time, like, we've got to analyze the results. I suppose when I mentioned that I was like a little bit disappointed, it was kind of just like the fact that they stuck so solidly to the joke of like they're in love but they're incapable of like, doing romantic things. So they're just, yelling science at each other. And it's just, I don't know, it was a little bit frustrating going through a whole episode. It's just constantly, sticking to that straight line of no, the romance is weird because it's science. I was hoping like by the end, there was still going to be like a cute moment, but like that never came. But that is based on the first episode. have to wait probably, a good chunk of the season before we're starting getting less straight down the line science stuff and more cute. Okay, so top two time. These are the two that I've been just fawning over for months, really. So the one that I've kind of been looking at for the longest time is ID Invaded. So this is a mystery anime, but it's a mystery anime set in like a virtual environment. So as they explain, and they do spend like a good chunk of the first episode explaining kind of the mechanics of this world, basically there is this technology in this world in which a person can go into a virtual environment version of someone's unconscious mind. There's two stories. So there's the kind of internal story where we have this, brilliant detective Sakaido who is going through the unconscious world of, which is called an ID well, I might as well just use the terminology, of a killer known as the Perforator. It's this, broken, chaotic world because, and I think it's supposed to be because like everyone's mind is like a bunch of fragmented thoughts and something. So this world of just like there's lots of little pieces, like there's like a bathroom and then like floating over there's like a park or something, and it's all disconnected. The detective will kind of go into this world and go through the world, and externally, the rest of the investigation team will be like, okay, who's that person? Okay, what's that location that he's been to, kind of thing. And through that, they'll piece together little bits of information that will help them track down the killer. I'm really into this. I was nervous, I'll confess, about this because, like the last mystery show I watched was the case files of Julia Richard, which I didn't like. But like one that's probably a bit more relevant to this case, I watched one I remember quite a while ago called The Perfect Insider, which I thought was really interesting. Well, I mean, I should say I thought it was really interesting. Then I watched like 2 or 3 episodes and it went nowhere because it was paced glacially. So what I'm really happy to report is because, they've got the internal story, they've got the external story, they've got, a whole bunch of stuff on the internal story about like, this world's all weird and stuff, and I don't know why, because, I have amnesia, which is, a bit eye roll, but like, at the same time, it's like, that's really cool. Like, like he's like, oh man, I have to get, I have to open this door. And what he does, because like this world is so fragmented that it also includes him as a person. So he can just kind of detach his hand and like throw it over and kind of, manipulate it to open a door. And I'm just like, oh, that's cool. Like that's just like a little bit cool on top of everything. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with this. As to be expected with, a mystery anime, it's going to come a lot more down to how the story progresses. But given, that I'm only giving 1 episode, it's pretty good. I'm interested to see like how they pull this off because like I'm assuming that the entire season, or at least a large portion of the season, is going to be dedicated to this one mystery of making it well paced, but also lasting for 12 episodes or 25, depending. How they're also going to be balancing the fact that this guy Sakaido is, discovering a lot of things about this world, but also potentially trying to, because like, if he, like, there's so many questions about like, well, if he doesn't know who he is, does that mean that he's been put there involuntarily? If so, does that mean that they're going to have to try and hide the fact that he's stuck in there? I don't know. There's a lot of questions. But, I mean, here's the thing. There's a lot of questions. I'm very curious about them, and that is what you want in a mystery. So it's kind of hard to say that they screwed things up. I think they've made a bit of a slam dunk here, so that's going on the list. That's going very high on the list, as expected. We've gone through like 15 or something anime. We're in the last part. This is the last anime. This is the anime that, even more so than ID Invaded, I was enthusiastic for. I've only known about this for about a month, but it's really freaking cool. And it also kind of bugs me because I've watched, like, I'm very much like, everyone, have your own opinion, blah, blah, blah. But the fact that, on like a whole bunch of lists of like, most exciting, best anime of the season, the fact that this has not cropped up pretty much at all, I find odd. I don't know if it's like people don't want to support it because it's Amazon, or there's some kind of technicality of like, technically it's not an anime. But I don't know. I think it's an absolutely fucking amazing show, regardless of whatever specific hang-ups people have. So the one that I'm most excited for, and the final one that I'm going to be talking about, is Pet. So this is about, at the risk of, sounding really fucking trite, like, is basically like Inception, but anime. So the idea of it is there's like a select group of people who can go into people's minds and screw with them and, enter their minds and kind of, transform them and make them kind of go crazy. And they're generally used, at least, according to this first episode, by kind of, Yakuza kind of people to be able to silence people. So, in one case, like a person is made to drive off a cliff, like messing with his mind and thinking that, oh, we're just going for a lovely Sunday drive kind of thing. Yeah, it is very interesting, and it's a very interesting concept, even more so than Inspector. I'm a little bit annoyed at myself for kind of, deciding to do this and doing this last minute and wanting to talk about it right now, because I feel like I really need a second episode of this to properly nail down how I feel about it. But what I will say at the moment, it's really interesting. It seems really well made. The only problem is, I think, because there's so much kind of lore that you have to chew through to be able to kind of understand what's happening. Even though, truth be told, at this stage, I don't think it's as necessary. Like, they had this whole thing of like, make your peak, like the happy place, and make your valley like the sad place, and don't let anyone mess with them. And I'm just like, you could have just done without that and kind of, I don't know. I think in terms of it being a first episode, I think it does a good job of setting up the world and setting up, to a certain extent, the abilities that these people have. I'm kind of just in this spot where I really love seeing all the crazy stuff that was happening in the trailer, and I'm kind of in a position where I feel validated. I feel that the trailer wasn't kind of like giving, an unrepresentative sample, probably. But at the same time, I haven't seen enough yet to be satisfied. I really want to see this second episode, because I'm imagining in this second episode, we're going to get, maybe more detail in what happened in the first episode, or a different perspective. I'm saying that because I've seen bits in the trailer where it seems like there's alternate scenes, compared to what we see in the first episode. They've set a good foundation for the narrative and for the world, but I want them to now build on that and actually make something that is a lot more than just exposition. Only watching the first episode of all of these animes or anime, however you want to do the plural, it's only ever going to be a brief interlude into the world. Every one of these things that I've watched, a good portion of that has been, this is this person's name, this is this person's deal. We're not going to get, the big action car chase conclusion or whatever, because we have to spend a good portion of it just priming people, on the concepts. So it's reasonable. But out of all of them, I'm still the most enthusiastic about Pet overall, but it does need to do a little bit more. And with that, we have gone through just so many anime. I will say that, as previously mentioned, I'm probably going to be like watching through pretty much everything from part 2 onwards, because everything was interesting in some way. Inspector, I'm so excited to see, some resolution to what happened in the second episode. I can't wait to see more superpowers and more crazy Future Diary-esque situations from Darwin's game. Somali and the Forest Spirit looks cute as hell, as does toilet-bound Hanako-kun. I want to see some more lovey-dovey from you, RikeKoi. Keep your hands off Izuken, looks just beautiful. And of course, mentioned before, ID Invaded could be something absolutely spectacular, as could Pet. So, if you have not already, and you would like to, feel free to comment on whatever we talked about, whatever anime we talked about. We talked about all kinds of stuff over this 3-part series, but, if you want to talk about stuff specifically from this, we got Toilet Bound, Hazuken, RikeKoi, ID Invaded, and Pet, and maybe that's something that you like. Maybe it's something that you don't. Maybe you don't want me doing any more of these dumb anime things. Feel free to tell me if that's the truth. I'll see if I can find other stuff to talk about. And I will definitely say, for all you people who, signed up to this video games channel to hear about video games, I do have a couple of pretty cool ones lined up. I mean, it's pretty hard to find some awesome stuff to talk about when, January has been fucking bare as hell. But trust me, I am an indie person and they're always releasing indie games, so we'll chat soon. And if you'd like to get alerted for when I'm about to talk at you about some video games, please subscribe, maybe check the bell, because YouTube subscriptions are weird. Please like, please comment, tell me what you want from me, tell me what you want. Feel free to share, feel free to donate to our Patreon, and I've already said all the calls to action that YouTube recommends that I do for you to do the things, engagement, SEO. But until then, I love you. Mwah. Bye.